From Islamabad and Karachi, Brigadier Javed Hussain and Zafar Ileli. From Delhi, G. Patsati in our studios, General G.D. Bakshi. And from Guwahati tonight, former Vice Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal P.K. Borbora. Thank you very much. Brigadier Javed Hussain, you know, General Kiani has generally become insecure because like all good, or rather I should say bad Pakistani generals, he doesn't want to retire. So the general view is that General Kiani has become insecure and he's trying to increase his relevance by showing what he can do on the Indian side. But question is, why is Nawaz Sharif letting him do this?
Look, Arnab, I was given to understand that this program is going to be about the talks in New York. Now, what your correspondent just delivered, what happened in, I'm not aware of it. I was traveling. I'm in Islamabad.
Well, just
to answer your question,
no, just to inform you, which actually reveals Javed Hussain how the Pakistani media as well suppresses the facts about Pakistan's terrorism. 12 people have been killed, 6 army and 4 Indian policemen in these twin terror attacks carried out by Lashkar-e-Toiba wing in Jammu.
you see, the point is that General Kiani is going to retire. So nobody should have any doubts about that. He's retiring in November. And I think his successor is going to be named sometimes in first or second week of October. Second thing is that Pakistan Army is fully committed. Presently, it has no offensive capability on the Eastern Front because the offensive formations have been deployed in the federally administered tribal areas. And they are preparing for a new offensive in FATA should the talks between the Taliban and the government fail. And chances are that they will because they are enjoying external support. Likewise, there is low-level insurgency going on in Balochistan, again supported by
So we are not interested in the Pakistan and the Pakistan Army's problems, Javed Hussain.
So,
you have our sympathies. You have our sympathies for being a failed state. You have our sympathies for being a failed state. But that is not the point. The point is you are allowing a venomous man called Hafiz Saeed to bring about these groups. No, one second. You see, I have a promise here, Zafar Ileli. I said sometime back today that Musharraf said to us in 2004, our soil will not be used for sponsoring terrorism against India. Okay, Zafar Ileli. As of now, the government in India seems to give you a long rope. But the people of India will not give you that long rope for a long time, Zafar Ileli. And public opinion counts in a democracy.
I see that you are in your usual hysterical mode. And actually, I timed you over the last 11 minutes, out of 8 of which you were hogging the mic. And I must say, the other Indian guests were very patient. What you really need is a Maroof beside you and a mirror. And I think that will be more than enough for your programs. I don't know why you call these other gentlemen. They are hardly consulted, interrupted repeatedly, and their arguments dismissed out of hand.
Zafar Ileli, Brigadier Javed Hussain
I'm used to you.
On a lighter note, Zafar Ileli, on a lighter note, Brigadier Javed Hussain is a former Pakistan Army Special Forces officer. He doesn't need you, Zafar Ileli, to give him covering fire. You can answer for yourself tonight why your government believes that this farce, that you will be able to put everything off to non-state actors, will work anymore, because it won't.
You know, I think that you must also do two things. First of all, in 1990, we are told, according to the former Indian chief, that you actually sent your soldiers and operatives and sleuths across to us in order to kill people you did not like. And that operation was conducted with the full permission of your defense ministry, your army chief, I presume your prime minister, until somebody got to know about it and they scrapped it. Now that is your conduct in 1990. So, you know, sometimes perhaps we learn from big brothers. Now, let me tell you one thing about this particular incident. I wish your cameraman could have taken your audience to the line of control. Your viewers would have seen that even a mouse can't get through those fortifications. To infiltrate that barrier with those precautions, with those many troops, is virtually impossible. Actually, I'm astonished how it seems that repeatedly people who want to take revenge on the Indian army, mostly for the kind of treatment that is being meted out to Kashmiris inside Kashmir, your part of Kashmir, I am surprised why this general who comes and praises his men doesn't blame them for stopping them. Why doesn't he blame them for not being able to defend a border which is impenetrable almost?
Your weak attempt not to answer the question is going to raise many eyebrows, I can assure you, including Pakistan. Because if you were aware of the facts, you would not go back to 1990s, Zafar Ileli, you would go back to 1986, when this infamous organization, you know, what was it called? The intelligence community had assessed at that point of time that the Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Jamaat-ud Dawa part of the same organization, which is the Markadul Dawawal Irshad, founded by Hafiz Muhammad Saeed and others in 1986 with funding from the Middle East, and set up camps to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan. When I tell you about your own history, you will be embarrassed. All I want you to accept tonight is this proxy war fought by the Lashkar-e-Toiba, a weak and cowardly organization which changes names and operates under different alliances, which is now using alliances like the Al-Nasriyin, which you'll be duly informed was reported to have issued threats against the Zubin Mehta concert. Al-Mansurian, mentioned as one of the alliances for the LET, has claimed responsibility for several attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. This proxy has to be...
You know, we have been, Arnab, at the receiving end of the ISI's machinations. Not as is, you know, commonly thought and as Zafar Elahi was referring from 1990. The whole story goes back to the year of the Lord 1980, when the current phase of the ISI's asymmetric conflict against India started in the Punjab first. You know, the AK-47s, the machine guns, the rocket launchers, all landed up there and ended up in the Golden Temple. You know, and we have lost 21,000 Indian citizens to this first phase of terrorism. We had hardly controlled it and tamed this very vicious, you know, terrorist movement when the Pakistan's ISI started the second phase in Jammu and Kashmir. And quite incidentally, you know, as has been brought out in A.J. Akbar's book, The Tinder Box, this preparations had started when Ziaul Haq called the Jamaat-e-Islami people from Kashmir to, you know, for a Hajj into Saudi Arabia, and then they were brought to meet him. This was in 1981-82. They had been working on it for that long. We had another 20 years of a proxy war in Jammu and Kashmir. Let me inform my august Pakistani interlocutors that the Indian Army has recovered in Jammu and Kashmir so far. 80,000 Kalashnikovs, 1,300 machine guns, 2,000 rocket launchers, 67,000 grenades, 7 million rounds of ammunition, 37,000
And it's only a matter of
kilograms
time. You see,
military-grade explosives.
You've just come out of the global embarrassment.
For God's sake, these don't grow on
you see,
the apple orchard.
Zafar, no, 1 second.
All this can harm about 3 to 4
let's get the others
divisions of the army.
Let's get the others in, or Zafar Ileli will say we need 2 mirrors on the program tonight. But what Zafar Ileli and unfortunately Brigadier Javed Hussain will have to concede tonight is that this game, where you use different names, I ask you tonight, Javed Hussain, I give you 4 names. Pasban-e-Ahle Hadith, Pasban-e-Kashmir, Al-Mansurian and Al-Nasariyin. What is the link between these groups and Hafiz Saeed?
Look, whatever the links.
No, what do you mean, whatever the links?
Question is,
I am very specific
hold
tonight.
on, listen to me. No, I'm also going to be very specific. Just have the patience to listen to me. Be a good listener. I've said so in so many earlier programs.
Answer the question, sir. What are these groups?
I'm answering the question.
Yeah, what are
if you
these
let
groups?
me. If you let me. The thing is, why is all this happening
Oh, please.
in Kashmir? No, it's not a question of please. It is happening because I can assure you, the day the Kashmir issue is resolved,
this is the standard.
all these activities
Now you realize
that are taking place.
No, now you realize that you
Crossing-
have no answer on that front. You see, now you realize you have no answer on that front. I'll come to you, but I want to go to
thing
Air
will
Marshal
continue.
Borbora. No, G. Patsati after
Oh,
that.
why?
No, 1 second. G. Patsati,
thing
I'm coming to after that. No, 1 second. Air Marshal Borbora. You see, the question is this.
You don't let me speak.
Sir?
This is not a debate then. This is not a debate.
Sir,
You don't let me speak.
Sir, Mujahideen, Hyderabad, Deccan owed up to the 26/11 attacks apparently. Right? There was a letter
What
given
have
by
you been
them,
able-
translated and published in the Wall Street Journal. It was later found out that there is no such group. This was another front for your ISI.
What have you been able to do about the Indian Mujahideen? They are flourishing. Under
Sir, the
your very
Bhatkal brothers are in the
You've not been
ISI's
able to do
custody.
anything
What are you
about
talking
it.
about? Actually,
Are in jail
Air Marshal
and
Borbora. Air
in
Marshal
jail.
Borbora is
Yes,
responding.
please.
Go ahead.
Okay, I don't think we'll go into specifics, but I think they've got about 20 minutes of their time. I think we also deserve some time. After all, we also come here. Now let's go back to just some very specific things, and maybe it'll be clear as to what is the issue. Post-independence of Pakistan, what is the identity of Pakistan as a nation? I think they're slowly heading to be called a rogue nation and a failed state. I think 1971 conflict was the greatest humiliation that they have faced. Now, what is it they are looking for? They're looking for revenge, yeah? Why do you want to cover it up with anything else? A failed state, almost being called a rogue state, their very existence of a very comfortable lifestyle of the Pakistan military in a practically undemocratic nation is the power over the civil government and, of course, India bashing. They will always be where they are unless there is a distinct change in the thinking of the Pakistan people. Now, US is carrying on blasting them with missiles left, right, center. They even took away and firstly killed and took away a lot of issues when Osama bin Laden was there. They did their job. Did Pakistan react except for voicing their issues? No, sir, because US is a strong military and they dare not. If we too had a strong military, Pakistan dare not do what they were doing. We are strong enough to take on Pakistan any day in a conflict. but of the strength close to a nature what US has. If we had it, Pakistan wouldn't
You know these
dare.
warmongers.
So
Do you know these warmongers
Now
that
listen,
you project
please
on television?
I have not said that.
These mindless warmongers.
Please,
you are doing your
you
country
had your say.
and
You
are
had
doing
your
peace
say.
in
Now will
Asia
you please
a
quiet,
very
be
bad
quiet.
turn by having warmongers like
I'm
this
sorry,
Air Marshal
we never
who's
started
flying
wars.
God knows where.
We
now,
didn't
let me
start
tell you,
wars.
listen
Go
to your,
back to 47.
listen to your Prime
48.
Minister. Take
Go
a
back.
lesson
We have
from your
only
Prime
ended the
Minister.
wars you started.
Don't listen to me. Take a lesson from your Prime Minister. Your Prime Minister says, no talking did not help, does not help. We will talk and we
I'm
will
sorry,
not
no
let
other talking has
people
helped
who
either.
want to. We don't want people who want to sabotage relations between us. We don't want them to control
I'm
the
sorry,
agenda.
we are not
Tell this
sabotaging.
Air
You look at
Marshal.
yourself. You
Why-
look at yourself. Your whole
No,
military
no, you see, one
is
second,
based
Zafar
on
Ileli,
this
Zafar
Indian
Ileli, you are getting
backing and
unnecessarily
Indian
worked
taking
up.
India.
No, 1 second. You see, please understand Zafar Ileli, and I go to Mr. Parthasarathi now. No nation can speak to half a nation. No, when you have talks between countries, you can't have one nation, which is India, speaking to half a nation, which is Nawaz Sharif, because the other half of the nation is General Kiani. You don't expect, you first sort out your own problems.
Correct.
We don't expect our Prime Minister to speak to somebody who governs half his country. Mr. Parthasarathi, the reason I raised this whole question about these various alliances and groups today was to just pinpoint to one issue, which was the Pakistani promise to act against terror, fundamental to a good relationship with Pakistan. In the broader context of these proposed talks in New York, Mr. Parthasarathi, what is the right Indian response in your view? Then we'll go back to Mr. Zafar Ileli and Javed Hussain.
No, I think let us be very clear. Since 2003, and that was the time when General Musharraf was ruling, we have had a ceasefire in Jammu and Kashmir, which has held. Now, this has come under strain, and it has come under strain by people crossing the line of control, which is a new phenomenon. This did not exist in the last days of Musharraf. And in fact, it's picked up after Nawaz Sharif became Prime Minister. Now, Arunab, I think this is also a program for the people of India. So let me give a background on Nawaz Sharif. Nawaz Sharif is I've known him since 1982, incidentally. Now, Nawaz Sharif, in his first tenure as Prime Minister, was responsible for the Mumbai bomb blasts using his hand-picked DG ISI, Lieutenant General Javed Nasir. This is not said by me, this is documented by the Pakistanis and the Americans. And his president came close to sacking him, Ghulam Ishaq Khan, but pulled back, and then both were thrown out, and out went Nawaz. Nawaz returns in 1997. When he returns in 1997, the Deobandi groups, which you have spoken about, are replaced by the Ahle Hadith groups led by the Lashkar-e-Taiba. Now, the Nawaz Sharif's family, ranging from the days of Mian Muhammad Sharif, have 2 generations of relations with Hafiz Muhammad Saeed, which are very personal. When I was High Commissioner, Nawaz actually sent the Governor of Sindh and his Information Minister, Mushahid Hussain, to go and pay their respects to Hafiz Muhammad Saeed. That was the respect in which Nawaz held him. Around the same time, he also sent his DG ISI to Kabul to ask Mullah Rabbani for 20 to 30,000 Taliban volunteers for Jammu and Kashmir. This is recorded not by me. It is recorded by a distinguished Pakistan author, Shuja Nawaz, on the basis of interviews with General Ziauddin. Now, he comes back. What does he do? His brother starts funding the Jamaat-ud-Dawa as Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. That is public information from Punjab government budget. Then Hafiz Muhammad Saeed on Eid day. Now, Eid to my mind is a festival of rejoicing, where you don't declare enemies. This man is given the Gaddafi Stadium to rave and rant about jihad against India. Then he repeats that in Islamabad. Now, I wanted to tell the brigadier that, look, we have thermal imaging of these guys infiltrating across. So we are not talking of somebody whom, as Zafar said, we had great control over. You cannot control over the entire LOC. A large portion of it, yes. Thermal imagery makes things better. So we know they have been coming across since the beginning of September. These are largely Lashkar cadres. Lastly, I've just returned from Afghanistan. When I was there, our consulate in Jalalabad was attacked and they were gunned down. We had intelligence information in advance. And the Afghans told us very clearly they were Punjabis from the Lashkar-e-Taiba who had tied up with the Haqqani network and come across. So, we are facing this situation after Sharif came. I'm not saying don't talk to him, don't meet him. But I think the process of engagement has to be much more carefully calibrated than it is at the present moment. And certainly, we should be aware that after this gentleman has become Prime Minister, and I'm sure Zafar Hilali will agree with me, that the links that his party has with dubious groups like the Lashkar,
I'm sure he will,
including ministers like Sanaullah, are disturbing.
I'm sure he will.
What I'm saying is, you're dealing with a qualitatively new situation, and I think the Prime Minister is going to land himself in trouble if he was, because we'll have to wait and see what Nawaz Sharif has to say in the UN General Assembly.
No, that's he's going to make the he's going to make the same points. The last point here tonight to the guests from Pakistan is this:
these are facts.
that I would have presumed,
Pakistanis,
I would have presumed, Zafar Ileli, that with this kind of a backdrop, the last thing that Nawaz Sharif would have done is start sponsoring Hafiz Saeed the moment he comes back into power. Instead, the governments give crores of rupees in separate budgets to the Jamaat-ud-Dawa, which actually reaffirms the point Mr. Parthasarathi has said, that there's umbilical cord link between the terror groups and your present Prime Minister.
Let me just reply to what Mr. Parthasarathi has said. At least he was logical in his arguments. Let me say that we as a nation, as a smaller nation, finding a bigger nation in hostility to us, adopted at one time the theory of asymmetrical warfare. That means that you deal with a much larger enemy, a much stronger enemy, in a way which is different. You just don't go up front and start fighting.
No, explain it, terrorism.
The chances
so you're admitting.
You will...
You are admitting.
No, just hang on.
No,
Listen, do you admit you committed terrorism in 1990? You have said you sent people across the border to kill. Now, for God's sake, let me finish.
Sir, you are admitting therefore
what
today...
I'm saying is...
So are you making an admission?
What I'm saying is, asymmetrical warfare is a theory of warfare.
Sir, please.
Which we have not... We have no longer pursued it. We have come to the conclusion that these Lashkars and Jaishes
have made the biggest admission?
An agenda which is very different and it is inimical.
Sir,
it is inimical to us.
Sir, the US embassy cables. Sir, the US embassy.
Consequently.
Sir, US embassy cables very clearly mentioned. I'll be factual with you tonight, sir, since you like factual arguments. It said, we assess that the Lashkar-e-Toiba and Lashkar-e-Toiba associated terrorists will continue to use alliances in order to circumvent restrictions on their movement and operations. So far, fundamentally, when the US embassy cables came out,
please understand, one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. Let's not go into these terms.
Tonight, General Bakshi and Air Marshal Barbara.
The Americans, everybody is a terrorist who criticizes Israel. So please, let's not go into
what you are making tonight is an admission on television that we use terrorism as a strategy. General Bakshi. Yes, General Bakshi, I think it's a big admission.
I would like to remind Mr. Zafar Ilali that the UN General Assembly has stated that no cause in the world justifies the use of terrorism as a tactic. This is precisely what they have been doing, using non-state actors.
And that's why, and that's have been observing that. That's why they are funding Al-Qaeda in Syria.
Then that's why you cannot say. That's why.
Very naive.
No. When you admit on national Indian television,
count for nothing.
When you
tell me,
gentlemen, 1 minute. When you admit on national Indian television, you can call it asymmetric warfare or by any other name. All I'm saying is, sir, take back every word you used so far as in your government used so far. Take back everything, including all the rubbish that Zardari wrote in the New York Times in December 2008, where, after the 26/11 attacks, where he said, we are all victims of terrorism. Because you have just said with your admission tonight that you are on the other side. You are with the terrorists. You can call it asymmetric warfare. You are with the terrorists. Air Marshal Borbora responding after that, Javed Hussain. Air Marshal Borbora.
Narrative of victims.
Air Marshal Borbora.
Biggest hoaxes that we've ever.
Air Marshal Borbora.
Mr. Javed Hussain and Ambassador Zafar Hilali, when you breed snakes in your house, someday the snakes will come back and bite you. Please remember, that is what is exactly happening to you. Your home-bred snakes are now coming back to you. I wish you all the best there. And I think a message for our nation.
The Brigadier Javed Hussain responding now to the Air Marshal.
Diplomacy.
Brigadier Hussain.
Post-26/11 has not paid any dividend.
Brigadier Hussain.
It is time that we are not called a soft state anymore, and we take action because of the fact that they only understand.
So Brigadier Hussain,
they will never live up to their words on anything.
Today your Pakistan High Commission Brigadier Hussain gave us press statement. They said, quote unquote, terrorism is a pernicious evil. Pakistan has been its foremost victim. We are totally committed to leaving no stone unturned to eliminate the specter of terrorist violence from our society and our region. This whole theory of so-called asymmetric warfare that Zafar Hilali admits to turns that statement around.
It is sad.
Brigadier Hussain. Are you going to go back on what you said, Zafar Hilali?
Don't take things out of context. Whatever the brigadier, whoever it is, who said something in 2013, I am trying to tell you that it is a normal military warfare strategy that when you are faced with a bigger enemy, you use different tactics. This tactic was one that we used, and when it was no longer required, it was discarded.
The context is of Hafiz Saeed promising full-scale jihad on India. Brigadier Javed Hussain is responding. The Brigadier's turn.
Yeah, let me come in.
Go ahead, sir.
You see, you are missing the point. The point is, it is very sad to see the second largest army in the world feeling helpless against a handful of freedom fighters.
Oh, please. I
Javed Saab, I will just put you up on the fact. Javed Saab, I will put you up on the fact. At any point in time, there used to be 3,000 to 4,000 terrorists sent by the ISI every year. They are down to 200. Most of them are trying to save their lives. Now, the only frustration, if any, that we might feel is the way we are being held back. I find
it fascinating, Mr. Parthasarathi.
Let me finish.
Okay.
You'll find it even more fascinating if you let me speak.
So I find it fascinating you are all admitting to supporting terrorism on national television.
Let me make it more fascinating.
Like your army chief.
Like your
army chief.
1 minute.
Like your army chief did it in 1990.
1 minute.
Come on.
Someone just mentioned.
That's what he said.
2,000 to 3,000 fighters. Okay. Do you know that in occupied Kashmir, the Indian army enjoys a superiority of 100 soldiers to 1 gorilla?
Sir,
this is the soldier to gorilla ratio.
The only occupied Kashmir I know.
And now you want to sit down on your haunches, your arms folded,
the only occupied
and you keep blaming Pakistan.
The only occupied Kashmir I know.
How is it?
Which is illegally in parts of your custody. That's the only occupied Kashmir I know, is also the occupied Kashmir with the worst human rights record. Let's not go there. Mr. Parthasarathi, your thoughts on this theory of asymmetric warfare? Mr. Parthasarathi, this whole theory of asymmetric warfare, which in my view amounts to a fairly candid admission tonight on TV.
Brigadier Hussain is a very distinguished special forces officer, and he knows better than most when asymmetric warfare is there. Conventional armies may have 100 to 1 superiority, but people manage. No, the issue is not that. The issue is, Brigadier, and I think Mr. Hilali will agree with me, that your nurturing of these extremist Salafi-oriented groups, which have international links in Afghanistan, in Chechnya, one has not done Pakistan any good. You spoke of the Pakistani military preparing to launch operations against the Tehreek-e-Taliban. For God's sake, who armed them? They were armed by the Pakistan army for you to secure strategic depth, as you called it, in Afghanistan. You know, anyone here wants a stable, peaceful neighborhood. But I'm afraid, you know, there's something as it was, I think, the American ambassador who said in Pakistan, when Osama bin Laden was captured and things blew up, that when you keep vipers in your backyard, they're someday going to turn around.
Gentlemen,
that's what the Tehreek-e-Taliban is doing.
Yep, I said so.
Well, that's...
Now, really, you will have to ask yourself, you may cause us some harm, we'll take it. We've got 1.2 billion people.
The point is this.
But you are facing an armed insurrection being undertaken by people whom you armed and trained to fight in Afghanistan, and Zafar Hilali will admit, are involved in horrible sectarian killings, closing down Ahmadiyya mosques. And these are people, this is the problem. You should never have touched them just to harm us.
Well, I think,
you know,
this is...
All I'm saying is, let's move away from this, and let's hope that Mr. Nawaz Sharif, instead of talking big, delivers by
in the meantime, while Nawaz Sharif does not deliver, while the Pakistani generals go through their insecurity and Indians continue to die, is there any need for talks? Any need for talks in New York? That question is to our viewers. Thank you very much to our panelists for joining us on debate number 2 on the Newshour Tonight.